Have you ever wondered why some people always seem to stay 3 steps ahead, even when they say very little and reveal almost nothing? They walk into a room and quietly shift the energy. Decisions bend in their favor. Outcomes somehow align with their goals. It looks like luck on the surface, but deep down, you know it is not luck, it is understanding. And the uncomfortable truth is this life is not a level playing field. It is a silent game of power, influence and perception. Whether you choose to learn the rules or ignore them, the game is still being played. Most people grow up believing that honesty alone wins, that hard work is always rewarded, and that good intentions protect you from harm. These ideas feel comforting, but comfort is not the same as truth. Reality is shaped by human behavior, and human behavior is driven by ego, fear, desire, and self-interest. Power does not announce itself. It hides in patterns, in timing, in silence, and in awareness. Those who understand this move forward while others remain stuck, confused and frustrated, wondering why their effort never seems to be enough. Look closely at the world around you. In workplaces, families, friendships, and even love, influence decides outcomes more than fairness ever will. People who lack awareness often give away their power without realizing it. They speak too quickly. They explain too much. They react emotionally. Every reaction is information. Every emotional response reveals a weakness. And in a world where perception shapes reality, being predictable makes you vulnerable. The truth is not cruel, but it is sharp. Power rewards clarity, not innocence. This is where most people misunderstand power. They think it belongs only to the loud, the aggressive, or the dominant. But real power is quiet. It observes before it acts. It listens more than it speaks. It waits while others rush. Power is not about controlling people. It is about understanding how people think and how situations unfold. Once you see the patterns, you stop being surprised by outcomes. You stop feeling betrayed by reality. Instead, you become intentional. There is a hidden cost to ignorance. When you do not understand the laws that govern influence, you become a pawn in someone else's strategy. You follow rules that were never designed for your success. You play fair in an unfair arena. And slowly, without noticing, you begin to doubt yourself. You blame your intelligence. You blame your background. You blame your luck. But the real problem was never your ability. It was your awareness. Power is not about becoming ruthless. It is about becoming conscious. It is about seeing the game clearly so you are no longer manipulated by it. When you understand how power works, you stop reacting emotionally to every situation. You stop seeking approval. You stop explaining yourself to people who already decided not to understand you. This shift changes everything. The same world that once felt hostile suddenly feels predictable. And predictability creates confidence. Think about how often people expose themselves without being asked. They reveal their insecurities in jokes. They show their fears in anger. They display their desires through validation, seeking. Most people cannot hide who they are because they do not know they are being watched. Awareness gives you an edge without saying a word. When you see clearly, you move differently. You choose your words carefully. You choose your silence deliberately. And silence, when used wisely, becomes a powerful weapon. This knowledge is not taught in schools. It is rarely spoken about openly. Because power thrives in shadows, those who understand it do not advertise it. They simply use it. And those who lack it often mistake kindness for weakness and confidence for arrogance. But once you understand the deeper mechanics, you realize that power is not about domination. It is about positioning, where you stand, when you move, and how much of yourself you reveal. As this journey continues, you will begin to see why some people always seem protected, while others are constantly exposed. You will understand why timing matters more than talent, why restraint beats force, and why being underestimated can be an advantage if you know how to use it. By the end, you will not just feel motivated, you will feel armed with awareness. Stay until the end, because what you are about to learn can change the way you see people, situations, and yourself. And once your eyes open to the game, they never close again. Once you begin to see the game clearly, the first battlefield you must conquer is not outside of you. It is within. Power does not begin with influence over others. It begins with control over yourself. Without self-control, every strategy collapses, every plan leaks, every intention gets exposed. The world does not overpower most people. Their emotions do. Think about how often a single reaction has cost people opportunities. One moment of anger destroys respect. One moment of impatience reveals desperation. One emotional outburst turns strength into weakness. When you react without thinking, you give others access to your inner world. You tell them what hurts you. You show them where to push. And once someone knows your emotional triggers, they no longer need force. They can control outcomes by controlling your reactions. This is why emotional discipline is the foundation of real power. Not emotional suppression, but emotional mastery. There is a difference. Suppression creates pressure. Mastery creates calm. When you master your emotions, you create space between stimulus and response. In that space lies choice, and choice is power. People who control their emotions are not cold. They are strategic. They understand that silence often speaks louder than explanation, and restraint often commands more respect than aggression. The mind is the true command center. If it is chaotic, your actions will be chaotic. If it is calm, your presence becomes steady. Calmness unsettles those who rely on emotional reactions to gain control. When you do not react the way others expect, you disrupt their strategy. You force them to reveal themselves while you remain unreadable. This is not weakness. This is dominance through composure. Self-control also means resisting the urge to prove yourself. The need to explain, to justify, to seek validation is one of the greatest leaks of power. People who are confident in their position do not rush to defend it. They let results speak. They let time reveal truth. When you stop trying to convince everyone of your worth, you begin to embody it, and embodiment is far more persuasive than words. Observe how people behave when they feel insecure. They speak too much. They brag. They overpromise. They rush decisions. In contrast, those with inner control move slowly. They choose words carefully. They leave space in conversations. They understand that mystery creates gravity. The less predictable you are, the harder you are to manipulate. Predictability is comfort for others, but danger for you. Patience is another form of self-control that most people underestimate. In a world addicted to speed, patience becomes a strategic advantage. When others rush, they make mistakes. When they hurry, they reveal priorities and fears. Patience allows you to gather information while others expose themselves. It allows you to act at the right moment instead of the emotional one. Timing is not about waiting endlessly. It is about moving when the impact will be greatest. Powerful individuals do not chase every opportunity. They select. They understand that saying no is as important as saying yes. Every yes costs energy, focus, and position. When you control where your attention goes, you control your life. Attention is currency. Give it carelessly and you become poor. Guard it wisely and you become influential. Self-control also means managing impulses when no one is watching. Discipline in private creates confidence in public. When you know you can trust yourself, your posture changes, your voice steadies, your presence becomes grounded. People sense this before you speak. Confidence is not something you announce. It is something others feel around you. The greatest illusion is believing that power comes from external dominance. Real power comes from inner order. When your thoughts are disciplined, your emotions are stable, and your actions are intentional, you become difficult to shake. Situations that break others no longer control you. Provocation loses its grip. Chaos passes through without leaving a mark. As awareness grows, you begin to notice something important. Those who try hardest to control others often lack control over themselves. They are driven by fear of losing position, fear of being exposed, fear of being irrelevant. When you master yourself, you no longer fear these things. You operate from clarity, not insecurity. And clarity creates strength that does not need to shout. This is how power begins. Quietly, internally, with discipline that no one sees but everyone feels. When emotional control becomes your foundation, something powerful happens. Your attention turns outward. You stop being consumed by your own reactions and start observing the reactions of others. This is where power multiplies. Because the person who understands people does not need to confront them. Understanding removes the need for force. Human behavior follows patterns. Most people believe they are unpredictable, but they are not. They are driven by the same internal engines: the need to feel important, the fear of being ignored, the desire for security, and the hunger for recognition. These forces guide decisions more than logic ever will. Once you see this, conversations stop being random. Interactions start to make sense. Ego is one of the strongest drivers. People want to feel seen, respected, and valued. When ego feels threatened, people defend. When ego feels fed, people open. This is why those who constantly challenge others create resistance, while those who validate strategically create access. Validation does not mean submission. It means understanding what someone needs to hear in order to lower their guard. When guards drop, influence increases. Fear is another silent motivator. Fear of loss, fear of judgment, fear of failure. Many people act not to gain something, but to avoid losing what they already have. This is why people cling to positions, titles, and beliefs even when they no longer serve them. When you recognize fear beneath behavior, you stop taking things personally. You see insecurity where others see hostility. And that perspective gives you control over your response. Desire is equally powerful. Everyone wants something: status, safety, love, control, freedom. Most conflicts arise when desires clash or remain unspoken. People rarely say what they truly want. Instead, they hint, manipulate, or test. Listening carefully reveals more than words. Tone, timing, and body language often expose true intentions long before statements do. This is why listening is one of the most underestimated forms of power. When you listen, people feel important. When they feel important, they reveal themselves. They talk about frustrations. They talk about dreams. They talk about problems they have not solved. Every word is information, and information is leverage. The more someone speaks, the more visible they become. The quieter you are, the harder you are to read. Observation sharpens your intuition. You begin to notice patterns in behavior. Who seeks attention? Who avoids responsibility? Who becomes defensive when questioned? Who remains calm under pressure? Patterns reveal character, and character predicts action. Once you understand character, surprises disappear. You are no longer shocked by betrayal or disappointed by inconsistency. You expected it, and expectation allows preparation. Powerful individuals rarely argue. They analyze. Arguments are emotional. Analysis is strategic. When you argue, you try to win in the moment. When you analyze, you position yourself to win long term. Winning does not always mean confrontation. Sometimes it means letting others reveal their intentions fully before you decide how to move. Another critical insight is understanding that people project their inner world onto others. Insecurity looks for threats. Confidence looks for opportunity. Someone who accuses others often reveals their own behavior. Someone who controls excessively often fears losing control internally. Projection is a window into the mind. When you see it, you gain clarity instead of confusion. This awareness changes how you speak. You stop speaking to impress. You start speaking to influence. You choose words that resonate with what others value. You frame ideas in ways that align with their self-image. People rarely resist ideas that make them feel smart, important, or respected. Influence is not about forcing agreement. It is about guiding perception. You also learn when not to engage. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some people are driven by chaos, not logic. Engaging with them drains energy and clouds judgment. Wisdom is knowing when silence protects your position better than any response. Silence, used correctly, creates tension, and tension often forces others to act, revealing their true motives. As you study people, you realize something humbling. Everyone is fighting an internal battle. Understanding this does not make you weak. It makes you precise. Precision is the mark of intelligence. You stop overreacting. You stop misjudging. You stop wasting energy on unnecessary conflict. Understanding people is not about manipulation. It is about awareness. And awareness turns interaction into strategy. When you see clearly, you move confidently. And confidence, rooted in understanding, becomes quiet authority. With emotional control mastered and human behavior understood, the way you move through the world begins to change. You stop relying on force. You stop pushing. You stop trying to overpower situations. Instead, you begin to position yourself. Because real power is not built by pressure. It is built by precision. Force creates resistance. The harder you push, the harder the world pushes back. This is why aggressive people often create enemies without realizing it. They win small battles but lose long wars. Strategy, on the other hand, works quietly. It bends situations instead of breaking them. It achieves results without drawing unnecessary attention. Those who understand this never rush. They wait for the moment when effort becomes effortless. Timing is everything. Acting too early exposes intention. Acting too late wastes opportunity. Strategic thinkers understand that patience is not passive, it is active observation. While others rush to act, they gather information. They study reactions. They watch alliances form and fall apart. When the moment arrives, they move with clarity while others move with emotion. This is why restraint is so powerful. Not every opportunity is meant for you. Not every challenge deserves your energy. Saying yes too often weakens your position. It spreads your focus thin and makes you predictable. Power grows when you choose carefully. When you commit only where the return is meaningful. Selectivity signals strength. Desperation signals weakness. Another mark of strategy is adaptability. Rigid minds break under pressure. Flexible minds survive and evolve. The world changes constantly. People change. Circumstances shift. Those who cling to a single way of thinking fall behind. Strategic movement means adjusting without losing direction. You change tactics, not purpose. You bend, but you do not break. Many people believe visibility equals power. They chase attention. They announce every move. They seek validation for every step. But attention is a double-edged sword. The more visible you are, the more you are watched. The more you are watched, the more you are judged. Strategic individuals understand the value of moving quietly. When people underestimate you, they give you space, and space is where leverage grows. There is strength in being underestimated. It lowers expectations. It reduces resistance. While others are busy proving themselves, you are building quietly. While they seek applause, you seek position. When results appear, they seem sudden to everyone else. But for you, they were inevitable. Strategy also means choosing battles wisely. Some victories cost more than they are worth. Winning an argument might cost a relationship. Proving a point might cost respect. Strategic thinkers measure cost before action. They understand that ego-driven wins often lead to long-term losses. Power is not about being right, it is about being effective. This mindset changes how you respond to provocation. Instead of reacting, you ask a simple question internally: does this deserve my energy? Most of the time, the answer is no. When you stop reacting to everything, people lose control over you. Provocation loses its power when it no longer produces a reaction. Calm becomes your shield. Strategic movement also involves understanding momentum. Once momentum is in your favor, small actions create large results. But forcing momentum before it exists leads to burnout. This is why patience and preparation come before execution. When the conditions are right, action feels natural. It feels aligned. It feels almost easy. You begin to see that power does not come from domination, but from alignment. Aligning your actions with timing. Aligning your words with intention. Aligning your energy with purpose. When alignment exists, resistance fades. People cooperate without being forced. Situations resolve without chaos. Another key element is knowing when to retreat. Retreat is not failure, it is repositioning. Stepping back allows perspective. It preserves energy. It creates room for better opportunities. Strategic retreat protects long-term success. Only insecure minds see retreat as weakness. Intelligent minds see it as survival. As this awareness deepens, you stop seeking control over everything. You focus on controlling your position. Where you stand matters more than how loud you speak. Position determines influence. Influence determines outcome. When your position is strong, you do not need to fight. The structure works in your favor. This is the difference between force and strategy. Force exhausts. Strategy endures. And those who learn to move strategically do not just survive the game. They shape it. When strategy becomes second nature, your understanding of power transforms completely. Power no longer feels like something you chase. It becomes something you carry, quietly, calmly, without effort. At this stage, power stops being external and starts becoming internal. And this is where most people get confused, because they are still looking for noise, dominance, and control. But true power does not announce itself. It stabilizes itself. Real power feels grounded. It does not rush. It does not panic. It does not need constant proof. When you are internally strong, you do not need to intimidate, impress, or overpower. Your confidence comes from knowing you can handle whatever unfolds. This inner certainty changes how people respond to you. They sense that you are not easily shaken, and people naturally respect what they cannot easily move. External power is fragile. It depends on position, approval, or status. The moment those are threatened, fear takes over. Internal power is different. It stays intact even when circumstances change, even when you lose something, even when things fall apart. Because your strength is rooted in awareness, not control. And awareness cannot be taken from you. This is why truly powerful individuals are calm under pressure. Chaos does not excite them. Drama does not pull them in. They have already mastered their reactions, understood human behavior, and learned to move strategically. Nothing about instability surprises them anymore. When others panic, they assess. When others complain, they adapt. When others react, they respond with clarity. Confidence without noise is one of the most underestimated forces in human psychology. Loud confidence often hides insecurity. Quiet confidence signals certainty. When you stop explaining yourself, people lean in. When you stop defending your choices, people question their assumptions. Silence, when paired with presence, creates authority. And authority does not beg for recognition. At this level, power becomes restraint. You know you could speak, but you choose not to. You know you could react, but you decide to wait. This restraint is not fear. It is discipline. And discipline creates trust within yourself. When you trust yourself, you move with ease. Decisions become cleaner. Regret fades. Doubt loses its grip. You also begin to understand that power is not about winning against others. It is about winning over yourself. Every time you choose clarity over emotion, patience over impulse, and awareness over ignorance, you gain ground. Small internal victories compound into unshakable strength. Over time, people may not understand why you seem different, but they will feel it. Powerful individuals do not chase validation. They build alignment. Their values match their actions. Their words match their behavior. There is no inner conflict. This alignment creates peace, and peace is magnetic. People trust those who are at peace with themselves. They sense stability, and stability attracts opportunity. At this stage, you no longer fear being misunderstood. You no longer fear being underestimated. You understand that not everyone needs to see your vision. You stop explaining your depth to shallow minds. You save your energy. You protect your focus. And focus becomes your greatest asset. The final realization is this: power is not something you use on others. It is something you use to remain centered in a world that constantly tries to pull you off balance. When you remain centered, you cannot be easily manipulated. When you cannot be manipulated, you are free. And freedom is the highest form of power. Freedom to choose your responses. Freedom to walk away from chaos. Freedom to wait for the right moment. Freedom to act without fear. This freedom changes how you see life. Challenges become tests, not threats. Opposition becomes information, not enemies. Every experience becomes data that sharpens you. Most people live reactively. A few live intentionally. The difference is not intelligence. It is awareness. Once awareness becomes your default state, you stop playing the game blindly. You move with purpose. You see outcomes before they happen, and you begin to shape your reality instead of being dragged by it. This is what it means to outsmart without overpowering, to influence without force, to stand strong without noise. And once this level is reached, power is no longer something you seek. It is something you embody.